Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Lord Shri Krishna is the Lord of all kinds of threes and is independently supreme by achievement of all kinds of fortune. He is worshipped by the eternal maintainers of the creation, who offer him the paraphernalia of worship by touching their millions of helmets to his feet. Okay, so now the purport by Srila Prabhupada. Lord Shri Krishna is so mild and merciful as described in the above verses, and yet he is the Lord of all kinds of threes. Not trees, but threes. He is the supreme Lord of the three worlds, the three qualities of material nature, and the three Purushas, Karnadakshay, Garbhadakshay, and Kshirodakshay Vishnu. There are innumerable universes, and in each and every universe there are different manifestations of Brahma, Vishnu, and Rudra. Besides that, there is the Sheshamurti who bears all the universes on his hoods. And Lord Krishna is the Lord of all of them. As the incarnation of Manu, he is the original source of all Manus in innumerable universes. Each universe has manifestations of 504,000 Manus. He is the Lord of the three principal potencies, namely Chit Shakti, Maya Shakti, and Tatashta Shakti. And he is the complete master of 6 kinds of fortune: wealth, strength, fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation. There's none who can excel him in any matter of enjoyment, and certainly there is no one greater than him. No one is equal to or greater than him. It is the duty of everyone, whoever and wherever one may be, to surrender completely unto him. It is not wonderful, therefore, that all the transcendental controllers surrender to him and make all offerings of worship. Here where Prabhupada says it is not wonderful, of course, it means not of any big wonder, not surprising, not wonderful. So he uses the word wonderful, full of wonders, in a different meaning. So, yes. Yes, so basically the verse in purport is establishing Krishna's supremacy, his absolute independence, how all the different aspects of the total creation are actually ultimately emanating from him. So that's why in the purport Prabhupada lists all kinds of different aspects of the total creation, the Manus, the Brahma, Vishnu, Rudra, and Karnadakshay Vishnu, Garbhadakshay Vishnu, Kshirodakshay Vishnu, and just briefly touching upon all different aspects of this total amazing creation. And very often in Prabhupada's purports, the last couple of sentences, they make the conclusion, they hit the nail on the head. So, therefore Prabhupada says, no one is equal or greater to him. It is the duty of everyone, whoever and wherever one may be, to surrender completely unto him. That's kind of the sum total of the whole discussion. And I mean, we find this actually quite a lot in the Srimad Bhagavatam, that again and again, especially also first canto, that Krishna's supremacy is established, and not so easy for everyone to accept and understand that Krishna, this little cowherd boy, who was later on driving Arjuna's chariot, that he is that Supreme Personality. That is even more astonishing, because very often in India we come across this understanding amongst the general Hindus that they think, no, Vishnu is the Supreme Personality and Krishna is just an expansion of Lord Vishnu. So even for them, not so easy to accept the fact, no, it's the other way round. This little cowherd boy, he is the Supreme Personality, and Vishnu, the three Vishnus, are simply his expansions with which he creates, because also, in the purport, Prabhupada says, there's no one who can excel him in any matter of enjoyment. So, Krishna is actually the only personality who doesn't have any responsibilities and duties, and his business is to enjoy. He is really the only one. So that's why he's expanding himself in so many different forms and energies that they perform all this creation and maintenance and destruction and so on. So that he is just simply free to enjoy, in Goloka Vrindavan, with his cows and calves and gopis and cowherd boys and so and of course this is one of the first things the Shastra is trying to establish, that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, controller and proprietor, because this is why we are here in this material world, because we want to be the supreme enjoyer, controller, proprietor. We have this understanding that, yes, everything is meant for me. How can I use everything for my interest and my purpose and my enjoyment? How can I control? And so that's why Shastra has to again and again establish this point that no, it's not the living entity in the material world who is supreme, but Krishna, he is the supreme one, And because sooner or later, as Prabhupada is also concluding the purport, this should bring us to this point of understanding, yes, Krishna is the one, everything comes from him. He is the supreme, and I'm just a tiny, insignificant little entity here, so I better worship him. And as it is so nicely said also in the verse, that even though Krishna is even worshipped by all the maintainers of the creation, and with their millions of helmets, they worship Krishna by touching them on his feet. So obviously it's all the different Lord Brahmas with their 4, 10, 100, thousands of heads. If even they worship Krishna and touch their head to Krishna's lotus feet, so what to speak of us, So that is basically the whole deeper meaning of this. And we can say actually that the goal of all our Shastric knowledge, when we study Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhava, whatever it may be, this is the essence of all the Shastric knowledge, to bring us to this point of surrender and service. Yes. If it doesn't lead to that, then all our great knowledge is useless, actually, And in one purport, Prabhupada also says, yes, knowledge can be useful in coming to this point of surrender and service. But actually, it's not even 100% required. One can also directly take to service and surrender, and then everything which is necessary to make further progress is actually revealed from within the heart. So we can say, in the process of gaining spiritual knowledge, there's these two steps, these two phases. So phase number one is to deeply understand Sambandha Gyan. Who am I? Who is Krishna? What is this whole material world all about? So, and that Sambandha Gyan really has to sink to the level of our hearts, and then it will lead to surrender in devotional service. And then comes step number two of receiving spiritual knowledge, namely that Krishna reveals from within the heart, proportionally to our surrender. He reveals, he shows himself. So good to always remember that actually realizations don't come just by studies, We can study and learn the whole Bhagavad Gita back to front or something, but we may still have zero realizations, because realizations are rewarded by the Lord from within the heart, proportionally to how much we serve and surrender in devotion. So, so it's a matter of striking the balance, because sometimes we may get too obsessed in doing all kinds of courses and certificates and this and that and this and that, and we forget the goal of it all, And then others who may, not be so knowledgeable and not able to quote so many verses and all that, but if they actually surrender in devotion, they can get so many more realizations, So Krishna allows himself to be understood only by those whose eyes are smeared with the ointment of love, Brahma Samhita, So not just knowledge, Yes. But as we surrender in devotion, then Krishna shows himself, and he even allows himself to be controlled by his pure devotee, Yes. So knowledge has its place, but it should lead to surrender in service, in devotion. So that definitely has to always be remembered. So now I thought I can shed a little bit of light onto this topic of surrender, because, that's the essence of Krishna consciousness, that it is meant to bring us to this point of surrender. And over the years I have collected so many nice little things here in my little verse book. Under S for surrender, in Chaitanya Charitamrita it says there very nicely, one is immediately freed from the clutches of Maya if he sincerely and seriously says, "My dear Lord Krishna, although I have forgotten you for so many long years in the material world, today I am surrendering unto you. I am your sincere and serious servant. Please engage me in your service." And also the verse before, now a different chapter, he says, one whose body is fully surrendered takes shelter at the holy place where Krishna had his pastimes, and he prays to the Lord, "My dear Lord, I am yours." So, that is the prayer, the mood, the internal word. From this day on, I am yours. Not only towards Krishna, but towards Prabhupada, towards Guru. Guru, we practice in a more immediate way. Krishna, for most of us, is a little remote, and how do we know what Krishna wants? So we practice on Guru. From this day on, I am yours. I want to give my life as an offering to you. And then as Krishna promises, one is immediately freed from the clutches of Maya. Wow, so it's quite amazing. And in another there's another nice one which says the same thing. But Krishna promises, it is my vow that if one only once seriously surrenders unto me, saying, my dear Lord, from this day I am yours, and prays to me for courage, I shall immediately award courage to that person, and he will always remain safe from that time on. So it's a deep matter from within the heart, and Krishna responds. And then in another statement, Prabhupada says, 2nd Canto, 7th chapter, verse 46, Prabhupada says in the purport, but in the devotional service of the Lord, the only qualification required is surrender. Surrendering oneself is in one's own hand. If one likes, he can surrender immediately, without delay, and that begins his spiritual life. Also very powerful, very concise and to the point. Surrendering, the desire to surrender, that is the only qualification we have to have. Rupa Goswami also gives the same thing a little differently. He says, the greed for Krishna, this loyam, this intense greed for Krishna. This is all we need. And of course, greed for Krishna means we surrender, And as Prabhupada so nicely says, it's actually in one's own hands, And if one likes, one can surrender immediately, without delay. So for most of us, not so easy to surrender immediately. For most of us, it is a very gradual process, step by step. But just that feeling, that urge, Krishna, I want you. Please, this life is for you. And then Prabhupada says, and that begins his spiritual life. Not really, and then, his spiritual life begins, but that. And that begins his spiritual life. Also a little unusually expressed, but that surrender, that starts one's spiritual life, So that's what our meditation should be. And Prabhupada was, making also this kind of joking comment that he was saying, just give this one life to Krishna. You've had already so many, but just this one you give to Krishna. And then Prabhupada humorously says, and then you can do whatever you like, in the spiritual world. What the soul likes, not what the mind and the senses like, but what the soul like, the real you. So just this one life to Krishna, and then you can do whatever you like. I quite often tell myself this, just this one life to Krishna, just give it fully, and then you can do whatever you like. Yes, not holding back, That's always the problem, that we do like to hold back. We like to give a little bit, but not too much. Just don't push me. Let me decide how much I want to give. But we also have that nice saying, actually Krishna doesn't look what we give, but he looks behind our back, what we have in that hand, behind our back. Yes. Yeah, so whole process of devotional service is all about this surrender, and that begins our spiritual life. So This is also quite deep and meaningful, actually only when we surrender, that begins our spiritual life, So while we are just cruising along, staying in our comfort zone, strictly speaking, our spiritual life has not even begun yet, my God. We may be thinking, oh yes, I'm so many years in Krishna consciousness, I'm initiated and all this. But hang on, it's a deep matter in the heart. How much have we really surrendered? How much are we longing, to actually give this one life to Krishna? This is a whole different thing, And yes, and the other day I was asked about initiation. How do you feel after initiation? And so on, So I was giving that answer. Actually, real initiation takes place in the heart. It's not all about the external formal initiation ceremony, and here you get your beads and you get your name. No, the real thing is in the heart. If we actually really surrender in the heart and really deeply accept Guru in the in our heart, and we desire to really give ourselves in his service. So that's the real initiation. And that can happen long before the ceremony takes place, or the ceremony may take place, but we may have never come to this point of actually accepting Guru deep in the heart, in that mood of surrender, So the external thing of initiation doesn't actually say that much, That's why we can say even our criteria of who is senior, who is junior, the ultimate criteria is how much, are we surrendering, but because that is not so easily, we cannot judge that so easily. So that's why we take these other criterias, but they're rather external and actually somewhat material, because when we got initiation, it doesn't mean that much, We may have never taken the initiation in the heart, really, Also, in regards to surrender, there is also one statement in the 4th canto, 28th chapter, verse 50, where Prabhupada in the Purport says, in other words, to execute the will of the spiritual master, the disciple should be prepared to lay down his life and abandon all personal considerations. Lay down one's life. That's what actually should be the attitude of a true disciple, to really sacrifice oneself and go to one's borders type thing, Although, of course, we do also need guidance in this regard, that we are not in a passionate way, cutting corners and maybe neglect our sadhana. Oh, I have to surrender. Oh, surrender. So it has to be applied with spiritual intelligence, not out of passion or something. But surrender, we also demonstrate in our sadhana, Yes. So surrendering one's life, be prepared to lay down one's life, doesn't mean one runs like mad and doesn't sleep and eat anymore and so on. But all the different aspects have to be there in the right mixture and balance. And that's usually why we need guidance, why we need a mentor, a coach who helps us to balance, because everything in spiritual life is so much a question of balance. There's so many different ingredients there, and they all have to be in a balanced doses. Not too much of this, not too little of that, and so it has to be well balanced, And often, as long as we have material desires and attachments, we actually can't objectively assess ourselves. We can't see where we stand. That's always the problem. Others see us completely different than we see ourselves, because our vision is foggy through our attachments, material desires, false ego, and we cannot really objectively see. And this is there on any level of advancement. This is also very important to remember. We have the powerful example of Bharat Maharaj in the Bhagavatam. He was on the level of bhava, which is a very advanced level, very high. But even on that level, the transcendental emotions can turn back into material attachments. And we can basically say Bharat Maharaj's problem was he didn't have a mentor. He was all alone there in the forest, and it all started with great intentions to save this helpless deer there. It started all with spiritual vision, but then he just got so attached. My God, when you read the story, how he had the deer on his chest and hugging and embracing it at night and even kissing it, and you start wondering, my God, So he didn't have anybody who would tap him on the shoulder and say, hey, it's enough now with the deer. Just put the deer aside and get back to your sadhana. You get going a little off the track here. He didn't have that person, So that's why he got materially attached. His transcendental emotions, which are there on the level of bhava, turned back into material attachments. And as a result, he had to take another birth as a deer. But still, he had the blessings. He remembered from previous life. He was going to Pula ashram and hearing the sages, and he was lamenting, it says, even in the deer's body, he was regretting and lamenting about his, previous life's neglectful practice there, so that's pretty amazing. So obviously he was not an ordinary deer, but a very special one, being able to remember and regret. And I do, to conclude my little presentation here, I do want to share one series of very nice verses from the Prema Vivata, where also this point is expressed, how important this point of surrender is and how we get to this point. Yes, it very nicely describes the internal internal situation in the heart of a devotee. So, Prema Vivata, chapter 6, in the verse number 7, it says, roaming about in the material world, taking one birth after another. If by chance the living entity comes in contact with a saintly person, he becomes immediately knowledgeable of his true identity as pure spirit soul, an eternal servant of Krishna. So already this roaming about, I find this very nicely formulated. We are roaming up and down the different planetary systems, different species of life, taking one birth after another, and then by chance, well, it's not coincidence, but yes, Krishna sees as Paramatma that the living entity comes to this point where he gets sick and tired of it all and thinks, what the hell am I doing here? Is there anything more to life than just roaming around? So then living entity comes in contact with a saintly person. And it says here, and becomes immediately knowledgeable of his true identity as pure spirit soul. Immediately, it is possible to become immediately knowledgeable. Again, with us, unfortunately it's not so immediate. I mean, it is immediate. The knowledge really sinks deeply into the heart, the more frustration is there. That's why Queen Kunti also says we have to be materially exhausted. Which means, we don't have any big ambitions and hopes anymore to really become successful in this material world and have a great time and so on. So that's what it means to be materially exhausted. We had enough, and we realized, no matter how much I try to enjoy, some flickering little happiness is there, but then sooner or later, boom, I fall again on my nose. So how long is this going to continue, So if this material exhaustion is there in the heart, then the knowledge falls on fertile grounds, Yes. And then one becomes immediately knowledgeable of his true identity. But the point is also the Sambandha Gyan. It is not enough just to have it as theoretical knowledge. Yes, I know Krishna is supreme and he is the supreme enjoyer. Yes, I know I'm servant. Yes, I know, I've heard it so many times. But then at the same time we make all different plans to enjoy and control, so obviously then we don't know. So that's the difference between Gyan and Vigyan. So this knowledge should not just be theory on the level of the mind and intelligence, then it's Gyan, but it has to be Vigyan, it has to be realized, and realized means we act upon it. That's what it means I know, when I actually act on it. Otherwise I don't know. And I guess that's why we have to hear again and again. That's why Prabhupada established Bhagavatam class every morning. Just so this knowledge really sinks on the level of the heart. Because if we don't regularly hear, then very easily we get covered over and we think our real problem in life is how to pay our bills and this and that and so on, and we forget what the real problem is to get out of here, So that's why we have to hear again and again and again, every day. Yeah, especially here in the Western world, the materialistic propaganda, so strong, we are surrounded by it every day as soon as we walk out of the temple. So that's why we have to start the day with this Bhagavatam hearing, and that gives a different focus to one's whole day, So that's why Bhagavatam and the holy name, they have to be really important parts of our life, especially family life. I mean, in the temple, it is in the center, and all the daily activities are molded in such a way that we can have Bhagavatam and chanting of the holy name in the center of our activities. But then when we get married, we have to voluntarily set that priority, And that's the challenge, to actually make our family life into an ashram, where really also the day starts with Bhagavatam and chanting the holy name. And this can easily be missed, And then we are surprised that in family life we don't make much progress or something, But it's very simple. Shravanam Kirtanam is the watering process. So if that's not the main focus of life and all our activities are molded around that, then the creeper will shrivel up and there will be no big juicy fruits, very clear. It's not such a mysterious thing or something, Yeah, so, and only if we hear again and again and again, then we have some chance and hope that the Sambandha Gyan really hits the heart and becomes Vigyan, So then next verse. Enlightened by this knowledge, he does not want material entanglement any longer, and he laments. So, if this knowledge actually hits the heart, that should be the result, that, We don't want material entanglement any longer, and there is some lamentation there. Alas, why have I served this illusory material energy for so long? There should be some regret. So there already we can reflect and look within our hearts. So if we think of our life before Krishna consciousness, do we actually have some lamentation there? Do we think, oh my God, how embarrassing, how shameful, I've just been wasting my life here, in ignorance, doing all these nonsense activities? Or do we think, oh, actually I'm a pretty cool person and I did so many cool things also before, and all right, yes, I didn't know about Krishna and I was eating a bit of meat, but anyway, it's okay. Now I know and I dropped it, So if we think like that, then it means the Sambandha Jnana actually hasn't hit the heart yet. Otherwise there would be some lamentation, some regret, And then in the next verse, it comes out even more. He bitterly regrets and cries out, Krishna, my Lord, I am your eternal servant. Ever since I left the shelter of your lotus feet, my life has been completely devastated. That should be the feeling in the heart, when we get that knowledge. Oh my God, I've got this eternal loving relationship, but I completely forgot about it all, and I left Krishna's shelter and loving embrace, and since then my life has been devastated, a complete waste of time. So that should be the inner feeling, Yes. So then, next verse, Lord Krishna is so merciful that if anyone appeals to him earnestly, he immediately releases the jiva from material entanglement. Wow, amazing. It just shows how this whole process of devotional life is such a deep internal matter of the heart. It's not an external thing. How many years we are in Krishna consciousness, first, second initiation, what position we have. No, this is just the external stuff, But the real thing is the internal thing, that we earnestly appeal to Krishna, and then Krishna immediately responds. He immediately releases the jiva from material entanglement. And in the next verse, it's nicely explained how he does it. Lord Krishna fortifies him with his transcendental internal potency. And this overbearing power of the Lord's spiritual potency weakens Maya's influence on the living entity. Wow. A whole mysterious process, Yes. Krishna immediately responds to this feeling in the heart. And he fortifies him with transcendental internal potency. It means he builds a fort, some big protective walls around that living entity. And the overbearing power of the spiritual potency weakens Maya's influence. That's how it works, Just by once calling out, Krishna, I'm yours, I don't want this nonsense anymore, please. Accept me, let me serve you and your devotees, Yes. So, I find this so amazingly wonderful explained, Yes. The internal mood of a devotee, So, and yes, to surrender to Krishna, as we said, it's not just a matter of running around, and not eating and sleeping or something. But no, actually, our surrender is expressed in our chanting of the holy name. Yes. That's actually the beginning of true surrender, when we really chant and we mindfully turn to Krishna, longing for the relationship, helplessly calling out to him, please let me serve you and your devotees. you know. So, because I mean, who are we that Krishna so easily should accept us or something? Again, Rupa Goswami, there has to be this intense greed, this longing, this lolium for Krishna. You know, so not, yeah, Krishna, here I am, so I'm in the temple, so yeah, of course you're going to accept me or something. No, no. There has to be some intense longing, some begging, you know. Yes. So, and that's what we are meant to cultivate when we chant, that feeling in the heart, that we don't just quick get the rounds done or something, but that we really turn to Krishna, appeal to him mindfully. I know, Krishna, you are there. Please accept me. And that, you know, deeper mood of chanting we can only establish when this Sambandha Gyan is deeply established in the heart, because only then it will be very natural that we turn to Krishna, because we realize, yes, I am servant, I have this loving relationship. But as long as it's just only theory, you know, then it will be very artificial for us to turn to Krishna when we chant, you know? Yes. That's what also Bhaktivinoda Thakur establishes in Harinam Chintamani. He says, when we chant the holy name without the Sambandha Gyan deeply established in the heart, our chanting is not the real thing. It is just a shadow. It's a reflection, because it is not chanted with that mood of turning to Krishna and calling out in helplessness, you know. So that's why Sambandha Gyan has to be established, and that will lead to deeper chanting. That's why we say, you know, Srimad Bhagavatam is the foundation to deeper chanting in japa. And deeper chanting in japa sets the foundation to kirtan. That's how the three belong together, you know. Because without hearing Bhagavatam, especially Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita is the ABC, but Bhagavatam is so much deeper knowledge there. It's full of transcendental wisdom, Prabhupada put in there. So the Bhagavatam, that gives the deeper nourishment, and that helps us to really, hopefully one day, get the point of our position, you know. So the hearing of the Bhagavatam sets the foundation to deeper chanting in japa, and deeper chanting in japa, that builds the connection. That, you know, gives us this internal work of connecting with Krishna individually when we chant our japa. So, and that foundation is required to give our kirtan some deeper spiritual power, you know. Because if the relationship with Krishna is not so much established in the japa, then most likely in kirtan we will be distracted by the external aspects. You know, there's so many external things in kirtan, like the melody, the rhythm, the instrument, the audience, and. So they will easily bring us on external consciousness, or what does everybody think, and do they like my melody, or no, people get bored, I have to change, and so then we cannot connect with Krishna, you know. So this connection has to be established in japa, and only then we have some chance and hope that we can also connect in kirtan, you know. So that's how the three belong together, and that's also very important to understand, because a little bit that trend is also there sometimes amongst devotees that, yeah, Harinam Sankirtan, that's the Yuga Dharma, or this temple worship and morning program, not important, just go out and chant the holy name, Kirtan, Harinam, you know. But no, it has to be based on japa and Bhagavatam to actually give it some spiritual potency. Otherwise, it may be some nice music, but not more than that. It will not transform people's hearts, you know. It will not actually attract their hearts to spiritual life, to Krishna, Yeah, so good to understand how it is all connected. Yeah, so these were the few little things that came to my mind when I read the verse. So let me see if there is any comments, questions. Do we have anybody listening over internet?
I cannot make questions here, but they are listening.
Oh, no questions possible over internet. No. Okay. All right. So do we have any further points of discussion or questions, comments, doubts? What's that?
He will try to see if there can be seen some questions on the YouTube. It's streamed on the YouTube.
Okay. So our audience on the internet, how many people are there? 1 or 2? Can't see.
6.
6. Oh, 6, more than what we have here in the temple room. Okay, at least we're reaching some souls out there. So any questions, comments from our internet audience, you can ring Devaki, Radha Prabhu, he is here.
Just Hare Krishna devotees.
Hare Krishna, waving. Okay, Hare Krishna and waving back.
Jai Shri Ram on stage.
Jai Shri Ram. Okay, everybody makes very significant comments.
How actually does Srimad Bhagavatam help us in our chanting? If it can be more explained, thank you.
Okay.
You already
Yes. I mean, at least somebody is thinking about it, how Srimad Bhagavatam can help us to chant deeply, more deeply. Well, as we mentioned, because there is so much deep knowledge, deep wisdom in the Bhagavatam. I mean, Prabhupada was saying Bhagavatam is the law books for civilized humanity for the next 10,000 years. So much is in the Bhagavatam, So, and a good portion of the Bhagavatam, as we mentioned, is to make us understand the Sambandha Gyan. Who are we? Who is Krishna? What is this whole world all about? That this is deeply understood and sinks into our heart. And for that we have to hear it and read it again and again. And best hearing is in association of devotees and discussing. Just sitting at home and reading by oneself, it's definitely better than nothing. But first-class reading, Prabhupada was always emphasizing that, is reading together and discussing. And that's why he established morning program, evening program, because when devotees meet, very often their natural attraction is to talk pujalpa. All kinds of unnecessary talks. So our natural attraction is not to discuss Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's instructions, Krishna's pastimes, aspects of our devotional service. That is unfortunately not our natural attraction. So that's why we have to have programs. We have to have morning program, evening program, house program, Bhakti Vriksha program, So we have to give it all kinds of names just to cultivate this mood of getting together and discussing, the scriptures, and how to live it and apply it. So, and by doing that in association of devotees, then we do get more realizations rather than sitting in our room and reading for ourselves. And also the scripture actually, I have come recently across this, That the scriptures, naturally, they always describe the highest goal, the star for which we should strive for, you know. But then also the scriptures need to be explained to us by Guru and Sadhu, how to actually live it and what is the next step for us to move closer to the star in the sky. You know, it doesn't mean, oh, from today on we are on the transcendental platform and we have to be pure devotees. No, no, no. Naturally, the Shastra always, you know, targets the ultimate goal, but then there is also a path how to get there. And this, of course, is also described in the scriptures, but then it is also a very personal matter of application, because each and every one is on a different level, and each and every one has a different step to move forward. You know, it's not, we can't squeeze everybody through one hole here or something. But it's a very individual process, and again, that's why we need that guidance of guru, sadhu, mentor, coach, and who can help us to see, you know, how we move forward and how not to become stagnant. Because without that personal guidance on a more regular basis, we easily become stagnant. And we just remain in our comfort zone and we think, oh, I'm doing okay, you know. And we don't even see how we could be moving forward, you know. Yes. Yeah, so all these aspects are so important. And then, you know, if we practice the whole process of devotional life in a balanced way under the guidance of a, you know, senior well-wishing friend who we can trust, who has no other interest except helping us in our devotional journey, you know, then we have some chance to get all the balance right, and you know, and then our chanting will also become deeper, you know. Anything else there?
No, just Nitin said, I'm Indian. This one was said, I'm Jai Shri Ram.
I was imagining that he is from India.
Yeah. And now some other discussion going on between these people who are listening.
What are they discussing?
What is Srimad Bhagavatam, and he's from a Brahman family. This one was watching, and devotees explaining what is Srimad Bhagavatam actually as being, and something about Prabhu and this and that.
Okay.
Discussion going on.
Okay, well, at least we stimulated a discussion. And where are people from? Can you see that? No, huh?
One is Rishabha Prabhu, he is our devotee here, and Nitin is from India, so from Brahman family, that's all I know.
Yeah, but he may still live in Croatia or something. No. So even in India, people watching Zagreb's. Okay. Good. Okay, well, then maybe we can conclude the discussion on that note. Thank you very much, everybody. Ganta Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki, Gaura Premanande.